When it comes to recruiting, just so you know, Elijah Pritchett, 5-star. Okay, you look at Turner Corcoran, Army All-American. You look at Teddy Prohaska, highly recruited guy, 4 or 5-star type guy. Grant Bricks, big-time recruit coming in, all right, as an offensive lineman. He's a young dude. Preston Tamua, I believe a 4-star out of Hawaii. Like, we've had highly recruited guys, talked about that before. Where I do agree with him is the development, the lack of development. Like, I've heard, it really hurt us when Rocco went out and when Pritchett went out. Understandably, you lose 40% of your starting offensive linemen, that's tough. You know who else lost 40% of their starting offensive linemen last year? We talked about this during the college football playoff. Do you remember?
Notre Dame?
Ohio State.
Ohio
freaking State. Lost the Remington Award center. Their center won the Remington Award. Gone. Their left tackle, gone. So the best center in America and the guy protecting your quarterback's blind side, gone. They moved their All-American left guard out to left tackle. And I don't remember. I think their backup center came in. They won a national championship. So my point is, it's hard when you lose 40% of your offensive line, starting offensive line. You got to keep in mind, Elijah Pritchett was 3rd string going into the first game. So there's got to be somebody there. You got to have other guys as well. Why aren't younger guys ready to step up and play? Why isn't there a little bit more depth? Why isn't there development? And I pointed this out yesterday, Elijah Pritchett. We got through the transfer portal. Rocco Spindler, we got through the transfer portal. You know, some of these guys were, I mean, you talk about Corcoran and Prohaska. Like, these guys were here before Donnie got here. I mean, Donnie's been here longer than Matt Rule. He's been here longer than anybody. So he should have as much development and as much depth, especially as well as he's recruited, as any position group on the team. For the second year in a row, we have the most experienced position group on the team as the offensive line. And for the second year in a row, the experience on the offensive line is top 5 in America when it comes to games played and total starts combined. So recruited well, lots of experience. And 2 + 2 = 5, because it's not equaling 4, which is a consistent offensive line, right? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it's been the talking point all week. It's obviously important this week here for Nebraska. I do think it's been interesting to see some of the reaction of everybody kind of giving their own 2 cents into it, because it's not all on the offensive line, as we know, but the offensive line has been a bit of a problem, and it's interesting to see just kind of over the years, because when Donnie started, it was kind of like, okay, they're making strides. It might not be huge strides year after year, but they're making strides, and I just don't feel like you're at that point now, right? And I've said it for the longest time, is that they relied on Benhart and Corcoran for the longest time. They brought guys in, they'd have chances here and there, but they kind of keep going back to those guys. You're wondering, at some point, you're going to have to recruit some other tackles. And here we are after Benhart leaves and Corcoran's already, a few injuries deeper than what he'd want to be. And Nebraska never found those guys. But the crazy thing about it all is they built an offense around dropping back and passing. And so, I think that a big key to this week in any week moving forward is to embrace the running game. I understand their stats. They're whatever, top 17 in the nation in passing. I understand it's their strength. But Emmett Johnson's also hit another gear. Emmett Johnson's better than we've ever seen him, I think, in the last couple of weeks, if presented the opportunity with the ball. So we can point at the offensive line, we can point at the quarterback, we can point at the wide receivers, and I do. But at the same time, if it's all a problem, maybe it's the play calling as well.
So you make a great point, and you're going exactly where I was going. We hadn't talked much about the offensive line yet this week. That's why I wanted to talk about it. It's not just the offensive line. Is the offensive line play where it needs to be? No, it's not. It's not. But it is getting the ball out of the quarterback's hands faster. Prior to the Minnesota game, we were top 10 in the nation, which with time allowed for the quarterback to throw the ball over 4 seconds. Just remember that. Just remember that. Top 10 in the nation, over 4 seconds, our quarterback had to throw the ball. Does that mean our offensive line, oh, wow, they're actually really good? No. It just means it's not all on the offensive line. Everything goes hand in hand. I've said a million times. If you can run the ball, you set up the play action pass. Now you can threaten the defense over the top, which makes them, they can't crowd the line of scrimmage. Then you can do the underneath passes. Now you can run the ball. Now you can do play action pass. Now you can do boots. You can do waggles. You can do zones. It all goes hand in hand. If the zone ain't working, I'm telling you right now, the waggle ain't going to work. Because the boot one way, roll back the other way. The defense ain't buying it. Play action pass isn't going to work. You aren't running the ball to begin with. So it all goes hand in hand. So is it all on the offensive line? Absolutely not. According to our good buddies and most trusted people under God's hot sun, Pro Football Focus, 5 of them were on the offensive line. Okay. I believe 3 on the running backs, and then 1 or 2 was on Dylan. According to the grades that are out there. So it all goes hand in hand. Final thought on the offensive line. It can be done. The best pass rushing team we faced all year. By the way, Northwestern has got about 2 or 3 guys you can get out to quarterback. The best pass rushing team we faced all year. We gave up 3 to Minnesota. We go back 3 to Cincinnati, 7 to Michigan, 5 to Michigan State, 1 to Maryland, top 5 pass rush team in the country, number 1 in the Big Ten at that point in time. And then Minnesota, who hadn't had a sack in 2 games, gets 9. So it can be done. How do you call the plays? Rule said we can't just sit here and call what we want to run. We have to call what we know will work. We have to run what works, not necessarily just what you want to do. If I want to eat cake all day, that's great. But I better expect to look in the mirror and, I'm going to see the results of that. So if I want to look in the mirror and see a certain result, what am I doing about it? And I know that's a whole topic for another day. I could pick another example. If you want to be good at shooting free throws, but you never shoot free throws, you're not going to be good at shooting free throws. You want to be good at shooting free throws, go shoot free throws. In other words, you've got to do what you're good at. You got to work at what you're good at, and you got to get good at it, and you got to run what your team is capable of running. If you're running what you want to do versus what you're best at doing, those can be the same thing, or they can be 2 completely different things. With the offensive line, it's not all on them. We got to get the ball out quicker. We got to be able to run the ball first. We got to be able to set up the pass. We got to be able to spread the defense out over the top just a little bit. We have no connection on our deep balls right now. There's like little to no connections with our deep balls, which is insane because Dylan Raiola has really good arm strength. And that was something he did really well in high school. Ja'Cory Barney and Dane Key have a combined 10 catches in the last 3 games. Combined between the 2 of them. Those are 2 of our 3 best receivers on the entire team. We got to find a way to get the ball to our playmakers. Emmett Johnson, Ja'Cory Barney, Dane Keene, Isaiah Hunter, anybody else you want to throw in there. But I will say this about the offensive line. Okay, the sacks aren't entirely on them. Should we be running? I think we need to get the ball out. It's got to be out quick. We got to be running shorter routes. We got to be reading it better. We got to be stepping up in the pocket rather than trying to run around outside the pocket all the time. A little bit more pocket awareness, seeing the field a little bit better as the routes are developing, setting up the run so teams can't just tee off. We ran the ball 16 times against Minnesota. 13 of those were on first down. You want to talk about predictable. Hey, it's first down. They're going to run the ball. Second down, they're going to throw. 3rd and 10, they're going to throw. I mean, it just becomes predictable at a certain point. And I chatted about this with Bill Bush. When you're getting sacked a lot, let's say when you do pass on first down, which is probably why they don't do it a ton, but then you become predictable. If you're getting sacked 9 times, let's say it's first down. You get sacked for a 4 or 5 yard loss. Now it's 2nd, 14, and 15. How often did Minnesota run the ball for 4 or 5 yards on first down? So they were like 2nd and 6, 2nd and 5, 2nd and 7 at worst. We were like 2nd and 14, 2nd and 12, 2nd and 13. The difference is gargantuan in there. So you can't be predictable. You got to establish the run. You got to keep defenses off balance. You got to get the ball out quicker. You can't assume you're going to block anybody, that you're going to play the rest of the year. Because I think we went into Michigan State and Minnesota assuming we could block them. Oh, we might have to do some things to counter Maryland's pass rush, and then look what happened. 1 sack, 34 points. But when it comes back to the offensive line, I also look at the rushing. And I know. Like I'm looking at the Minnesota game. You know, Dylan was sacked 9 times. Technically, he ran the ball 13 times total for minus 34 yards. So this comes away from the total. But we had 36 total rushing yards. Minnesota had 186. You start to dive into this a little bit more. When we ran the ball with Emmett versus Maryland, he had 176 yards, 8.4 yards per carry. Now, nobody else was very good. We need another running back to step up. You know, Northwestern is going to roll in here with 3 backs they can equally rotate, almost equally rotate. Why do so many teams have so many backs they can rotate? It's great that Emmett is great. Needs to improve his blocking, but why do we not have more guys we can rotate is my question. You go back to the last 3 games, and you look at our rushing. We averaged 2.2 yards per carry versus Michigan State. Versus Maryland, actually all the way up to 6.4. Ran for 193 yards because we came out and tried to establish the run. Versus Minnesota, 1.2. So 2.2, 1.2 in the one game we tried to run the ball and made it a focus, I should say. We ran it a lot better. A lot of times there aren't places, like a lot of times I'm not sure how Emmett finds a hole, to be honest with you. There aren't a whole lot of places for him to go. So the offensive line needs to create more holes, excuse me, in the run game, protect better in the pass game. Are all the coaches on the same page offensively? Because it kind of looks like maybe, maybe not. I mean, Rule talked about there were plays. See if I can find it here. All right. There's Holgerson. Dana Holgerson says of the first drive at Minnesota, the first 2 plays were run plays, were RPOs, run pass options attached, and Dylan had the option to throw there, hand it off, whatever. On the second of those, when he got sacked because no one was running a route, Holgerson says Isaiah Hunter missed a signal, didn't know he was to run a route. He blocked instead. Holgerson said that could have been a 70-yard touchdown. Why? So last year when guys were running open, largely the same guys we have in our secondary this year. John Butler was here last year as a secondary's coach. Now he's the defensive coordinator. We had guys running wide open against Rutgers and Illinois, and it's because guys weren't on the same page. Now all of a sudden we're on the same page. We have the number 1 pass defense in the country. Funny how that works. Our guys on the same page this year because now we've got offensive linemen who aren't communicating well. Let me repeat this. There were 10 free runners at our quarterback in the Minnesota game. A free runner means came through unblocked 10 times. Ran the ball 16 times. Think about that ratio. Ran the ball 16 times, and 10 of the times we threw the ball, there were free runners. Dylan attempted 25 passes in that game, by the way. Think about that percentage, 10 out of 25. There needs to be better communication with the receivers. There needs to be better communication with the backs. Rule set a back, didn't go to the flat. On a particular route, he would have been open. Dylan had to hold the ball. He got sacked. So Isaiah didn't run a route. Dylan got sacked. Emmett didn't run a route to the flat. Dylan got sacked. We've got free runners to the quarterback. Obviously, that's not good. That's putting it mildly. They need to get on the same page. First and foremost, they need to get on the same freaking page, whatever the deal is. Is it all on the offensive line? No. I've said for years, offense puts butts in the seats, defense wins games, the trenches wins championships. Like, football starts up front. It starts up front. It starts up front. Now, Emmitt Smith, former Cowboys running back, Cardinals running back, NFL's all-time leading rusher. Great running back. Do you think it's any coincidence that the NFL's all-time leading rusher also ran what most people considered behind what most people consider to be the greatest offensive line in the history of the NFL? They call it the Great Wall of Dallas during that Super Bowl 92, 93, 95. 3 out of 4 years they won the championship. There's also, to this day, most people would consider it to be the greatest offensive line in history. You got the Hog Mollies from the Skins of 91. You got that Great Wall of Dallas. You've got other lines throughout history. Most people put that line up top. Do you think there's just a coincidence? So the running game starts up front. Protecting the quarterback starts up front, but everybody's got to get on the same page.